Good afternoon, everyone. We would like to welcome you to the Team Tuesdays webinar. My name is Kristen Lenig, and I am the Central Field Director for Special Olympics Pennsylvania. I will be your host today during this webinar. My teammate Haley Fuzak, who is the SOPA Marketing and PR Manager, will be operating the webinar. Throughout this webinar, your microphones will be muted and your video cameras disabled. At the end of each speaker presentation, we will have a brief time for questions. There is a Q&A box as well as a chat feature on this webinar. Questions for the presenter should be submitted through the Q&A box. This webinar will be recorded and posted to our SOPA YouTube channel where you can view later and share with others. As a reminder, the purpose of this webinar series is to connect with all of you and share helpful and motivational content to continue our mission. Thank you, all of you for joining today. We are very excited to present Laura Kleber, a registered dietitian, as our special guest speaker during this webinar. First, we will have Matt Aaron, our President and CEO of Special Olympics Pennsylvania, join us for a few opening remarks.
Hi, everybody. Just a quick shout out to everyone who had a part in our virtual summer games, especially to all the coaches on the line who helped get athletes registered. We had, from all of the statistics that I've been able to find and review, we had the best participation in our virtual summer games of any program in the country. And so that's a real testament to the staff team, to the Summer Games Committee, and to all of you, our volunteers and our athlete leaders who help get other athletes registered. So thanks so much. I hope all of you enjoyed that. Real quickly, I wanted to update you on our return to play plan. Many of you are aware that SOI, Special Olympics International, released global guidance last Tuesday. There are still a few open questions and issues related to that guidance that we're working with them to resolve. But our team has been working hard on the SOPA plan. I got an update earlier today that we are in the final draft review phase, and our hope is to have that plan out by early next week. So we are working hard to begin to resume activities, and so you'll be hearing more very soon. So thanks again for virtual summer games, and Kristen, back to you. I'm looking forward to today's topic.
Thank you, Matt, for that exciting update. I would now like to introduce our speaker, Laura Kleber. Laura earned her master's in nutrition and dietetics from the University of Pittsburgh. She's also a former Division I student athlete from Lafayette College, where she discovered her love for lacrosse and human performance. Laura continues to be an active part of the lacrosse community through coaching youth, middle school, high school, and club levels. She also enjoys nutrition education and actively looks to share her experience and knowledge with her community. Laura has experienced firsthand how proper fueling can impact not only sports performance, but attitude and energy level. This propelled her passion for helping others achieve the best version of themselves through food and nutrition. Welcome, Laura. How are you, Laura?
Hi, Kristen. Hi, everybody. I'm great. Hope you're all doing well, and I'm really excited to be here.
Thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it. So I did go into a little bit of your background there in our bio, but I was wondering if I did miss anything, if you could add anything to that and kind of talk a little bit how that led you to where you are today.
Yeah, so you got a good chunk of it. I grew up over in New Jersey. I played all different types of sports growing up. I was always interested in food, but never really understood kind of how that would be a career path for me until about almost done with college. So I was a lacrosse player in college, and I kind of saw that firsthand, how food really impacted my athletic performance, not only my mood, my attitude, my strength, my intensity. So I saw that firsthand, and I said, wow, like other athletes need to learn about this, and especially younger athletes, so that they can learn, you know, food is fuel. So I decided I wanted to become a registered dietitian. I found my way to the University of Pittsburgh, which is where I got my master's, like you said. And when I graduated, I started my own business because I wanted to be in the private practice field, so that I could work one-on-one with clients, help them, achieve the best self that they can. So I also partnered with Case Specific Nutrition, which is another private practice here in Pittsburgh. So I'm really excited about that. Working with Andrew, who's the CEO, has really helped me grow a little bit and see clients through insurance, which has been really beneficial.
Wonderful, wonderful. Can you tell us a little bit about Case Specific Nutrition and what you do there?
Sure. So I'm one of their contract dietitians. Case Specific Nutrition is a private practice. So either doctors refer clients to us, physical therapists, people searching on Google can find us as well. And it's kind of just what it sounds like. It's case specific. So everybody's different. Everyone eats differently. Everyone's body needs different things. There are some general guidelines, but nobody's alike, right? Nobody has the same exact tastes. Nobody has the same preferences. So we look and work with clients one-on-one so that we can really bring them a case-specific nutrition plan. So typical clients that I would see, I'm definitely more in the athlete realm. I also see some weight management folks, some diabetes folks, heart disease. Food and nutrition can really help you manage any chronic diseases or decrease your risk of chronic disease. So that's kind of the clients I see.
Great. And I know you said that you sort of had more of an interest in food and more importantly nutrition when you were an athlete in college, when you were playing lacrosse. Can you tell us a little bit more, like how did you realize at that point that this was something that was important to you and important to your athletic performance?
Yeah, so I kind of started realizing, I don't really feel fast on the field. I was getting injured a lot. I was really tired. I wasn't doing as well as I should have been doing in some of my classes. And, we had a decent amount of support for the athletes, not nearly as much as, say, a bigger school, because Lafayette was a small school. But my lift coach kind of pulled me aside one day and he's like, what's going on with you? You're slow, you're not making improvements in the weight room. So I kind of talked to him. I was like, I don't know, but I feel like not great. So he kind of said, well, what are you eating? And we went through that. And that's kind of where I saw firsthand, wow, this really does impact my performance. And I was getting faster in the field. I was doing better in school. I was doing better in sports in general. So that's kind of really where that spark went off in my head where I'm like, wow, other people need to learn this.
That's right. That's very true. And I think a lot of the athletes in our programs and the coaches that work with them do realize that, health and nutrition are a big part in their performance and their participation in the Special Olympics. So I'm excited to dive in deeper and really talk through some of these things with you because I think it's so relatable to our audience today. So let's talk more about nutrition and your experience there. So can you tell us a little bit about just in general, start with the basics here, the importance of healthy eating?
Absolutely. So, I'm sure everyone here has heard this before. Healthy eating and nutrition is important, but kind of why? It's important just for a healthy lifestyle, not only for athletes, but for coaches, parents, and support systems in general. A good food, and nutrition mixed with physical exercise or activity can help you maintain a healthy weight. It can help reduce risk of different chronic diseases like high blood pressure or high cholesterol, diabetes, some cancers. Nobody kind of sets out in life like, ooh, I really want to get a chronic disease, right? So nutrition can help us avoid these things. Or if you do have some sort of chronic disease, it can really help manage the symptoms or get you in improved condition. So not only can it, help you not have a chronic disease, but it can also help you feel more energized, keep your bones nice and strong, your teeth strong. Also, like I said, a better mood or an attitude. It can help improve your memory. And it also can help you sleep. So healthy eating, though, does not have to be complicated. I know there's a lot of different information on the internet or social media or fad diets. Those aren't necessarily necessary, and sometimes they can be a little bit harmful. So making sure that you're reaching out to the appropriate people, like a registered dietitian. We are the experts in the food and nutrition field, so making sure that you're reaching out to somebody like that, or your doctor will point you in the right direction.
Great, great. And I know we're going to talk a little bit more today about how to eat healthy and how that's done. So, Laura, I know you also provided some graphics that we're going to share on the call. So you just tell us when you want us to pull those up to assist with your descriptions here today. So I guess what next would you like to talk about? The basics of, carbs, proteins, fats? Would you like to talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So we'll start kind of with the basics of healthy eating. So this can be taken as an athlete, taken as a coach or a parent. Food is fuel for the human body. That's really what I want to push. Food is your fuel. So our bodies need fuel or food to help us move, think, grow, repair, recover. And it's important that we get a mix and variety of foods. So that our bodies can be at their healthiest and we can compete at our hardest, or we can coach at our hardest. So all foods are made up by nutrients, essentially. Those three are carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. So we'll go through carbohydrates first. This is pretty basic, but if you're not familiar with these, don't worry about them too much, but kind of understanding the general gist of everything will help you eat a little bit healthier. And if you have questions, we can get to those. So carbohydrates, when you hear carbohydrates, I want you to think energy. So carbs, energy. It's your body and brain's main fuel source. So they help us move our bodies, feel alert, concentrate, maintain intensity in sports. And it also helps us stay hydrated. So if you actually hear the word carbohydrate, you hear that word hydrate in there because carbohydrates help us keep our body hydrated. So there are two different types of carbs in foods. There are simple and there are complex. Simple carbs, I want you to think of maybe just a jump start. You jumpstart a battery. While complex carbs, think of, you're pouring gas in your fuel tank. So it's going to get you a little bit further throughout the day. So examples of those simple or the jumpstart carbohydrates, those are things like white breads, white rice, pretzels, a sports drink, like a Gatorade or Powerade, table sugar, juice or fruit juice, fruits in general, and then like applesauce. So then complex carbohydrates, like the gas in the tank, so they're going to fuel you a little bit longer. Those are whole grains. So whole wheat, whole oats, granola, brown rice, quinoa, if you've ever tried that. It's a grain similar to rice. Barley, farro, those are other grains. Corn, potatoes, and beans are also complex carbs. So that's your fuel sources. Your next one is your proteins. So when you hear protein, I want you to think of structure. Proteins that we eat provide our body with what I like to call building blocks. Or Legos, building blocks to make up almost everything. So from our cells to our fibers, our tissue, our organs, our skin, our hair, our nails, all of that's made up of protein. So obviously it's pretty important, but not only things that we can see and touch, but also it helps us turn our food into fuel, hormones, which are kind of just messengers in our body, and antibodies. So those also help our immune system keep us healthy. And just like carbohydrates, there are two different sources. For protein, you have animal sources and you have plant sources. So animal, those are kind of the things that you think of first, meat. So turkey, chicken, beef, fish, different types of seafood like crab or shrimp. Then you have eggs, dairy products, so milk, yogurt, or cheese, protein smoothies like the whey protein powder or protein bars or waters. Those are all from animal products. And then you can get protein also from plant products. So beans or legumes, you have nuts like peanut butter or seeds, nut butters like almond butter or peanut butter also in the plant category. And then whole grains. So remember those complex carbohydrates? Whole grains also give you some protein. So they're kind of a double whammy. And then also tofu and soy products. So that's your protein. Next was your fats. So we have carbohydrates, energy, protein, we have structure, and then fats, I want you to think is essential. You need them. So they do contribute to your body's fuel, kind of at rest or lower intensity exercises. They also help you produce hormones, which again are just messengers in your body. They're also good for your immune function and vitamin and mineral absorption. Again, there are two sources. So we have unsaturated fats and saturated fats. The unsaturated are going to be a little bit healthier for you, while the saturated, you're just kind of want to limit a little bit. And I'll tell you the difference. So the unsaturated are going to be from more of your plant sources. So olive oil, canola oil, nuts, seeds, avocados, eggs, seeds, and salmon or tuna, so fattier fishes, are going to be those good sources of fat. The saturated fat sources, we just kind of want to make sure that we're a little bit mindful or limiting those just for an overall health aspect. So those are going to come from like full fat dairy. So if you have the choice and you're choosing your yogurt, trying to steer towards that non-fat or 1% as opposed to whole or 2%, just helps you cut down that saturated fat intake a little bit. It's also found in cheese, chicken skin, fattier cuts of steak. So if you see like a beef or a steak cut that has a lot of that white marbling, that's going to be some saturated fat. So choosing cuts that have a little bit less of that. Butter, and then you'll also find it in some deep fried foods or pastries or pies. Not that you have to cut all of that out. That's still completely okay to have. We just trying to say in moderation. So it's kind of more of a sometimes food as opposed to an all the time food. So a combination of all three of those macronutrients keep us healthy and keep us alive. And all humans need a mixture of all three, to stay alive. So when it kind of splits into, what do athletes need specifically? What do, normal people that are just a little physically active, is really kind of just the combination of all three, which we'll get into.
Thank you. That was wonderful. And Laura, if there's any other extra documents that kind of show all these types of examples that you want to share with us later, we can share with our coaches and athletes. We will definitely spread that, spread the word to everybody. But yes, definitely a lot to learn here on different types of food and what's important for our bodies to function at maximum level, which is great. I do want to talk a little bit now going into how to kind of build your plate and how to be the healthiest athlete during performance days and non-performance days. So I know we have some visual aids for that as well. So you just tell us when to cue those up, and you can talk a little bit more about how to build that plate.
Great. So when you're planning your diet or you're thinking about a meal, making sure that you think about three things, and it's not really complicated, but the three main things are fruits and vegetables, lean proteins, and a complex carb source. So fruits and vegetables, we haven't really touched on them a lot because they don't really have a ton of those macronutrients. Fruits definitely have some carbohydrates, but vegetables are a little bit more vitamins and minerals and some fiber. So making sure that we're really focusing, our plate, first of all, we want to see fruits and vegetables on there. Then we think, okay, I need some sort of protein source. Making sure our muscles stay strong, our body has enough protein to make all of our tissues and components that it needs. And then we also want to think about complex carbohydrates to make sure that we have enough energy to get through the day and be powered through our sport or powered through our coaching sessions. So those three components, I just want you to think of fruits and vegetables for color, protein, and carbs, CPC. So if you want to go ahead and pull up that performance plate graphic that I sent you, Kristen, that would be great. The next one, yeah. So the performance one, this is a performance plate. So this kind of just gives you a really simple visual of, how you want to build your plate. And it can be, as simple as just whatever's in the fridge, but making sure that you're thinking, again, that color, protein, and then complex carb. So you should be eating a little bit differently based on if you're in season or off season or practicing versus not practicing, just based on, how much energy you're using that day. So if it's a light day or a rest day, or your sport isn't necessarily really energy driven, so if you're more of a golfer or like a bowler, that's going to use a little bit less of energy than, say, a basketball player or a runner. So just kind of thinking overall, how much energy am I using? That can help you build your plate as well. So taking a look at this, the left side, you're going to see it on there. It says light sport or rest day. So if you just take a look just at the plate, you're seeing already that, there's definitely a big part of that plate is fruits and veggies. So that can be raw vegetables, cooked vegetables, a vegetable soup, or some fresh fruit. And then you can see on the left lower side, you have your lean protein options. So poultry, which is just chicken or turkey. You got beef, lamb, fish, eggs, low-fat dairy, the plant sources of protein, so soy or tofu or tempeh, legumes, and nuts. And then that last quarter of the plate is going to be your whole grains. So that, again, is, our complex carbohydrate option, so that you are making sure that you're having sustained energy as opposed to just a little jump start of energy. So that's your whole wheat breads or pastas, whole wheat tortillas, brown rice, potatoes, cereal grains. So most of the cereal, you can just take a look at the label. If the first ingredient listed is whole wheat, then it's going to be good. And then you also have legumes in that category too. So if you look at the difference between the left and the right graphic, you're just going to notice that some of the portions are a little bit changed. So for a moderate to intense sport, you just want a little bit more energy. Think back to the macronutrients, energy, that's the carbohydrate source. So increasing that a little bit, decreasing a little bit of the fruits and vegetables, and that is essentially the difference between the two. Now, if your sport is really, really intense, or if you're going, a few days a week in a row, or you're having 2-a-days, or somewhere where you're really expelling a lot of energy, then you're going to want to further that grains portion to almost half the plate so that you make sure you're getting enough energy. So other healthy eating tips that we can look at is also making sure that we're staying hydrated. So you're seeing on these performance plates, every single meal, we want to make sure that we're incorporating some type of beverage. I would push water. I know a lot of people just don't love the taste of water, and that's okay. There's so many different ideas and recipes online for infused water. So it can be even as simple as, if you really like apple juice, have half of it into a half glass of water, just watering it down a little bit so that you are making sure that you're still getting a nice water source, but without those extra sugars. And making sure it's 100% juice is also great.
Great, thank you, Laura. That was very, very informative. Definitely helpful to see the visual and all the colors. And I do think for me as well as others, I think I appreciate all the different acronyms you're putting into the presentation, as well as just the different analogies. Really help understand the whole idea better, which is great. So I know we're gonna have a lot of questions later on, so I do want to keep moving so that we can allow our athletes and coaches to ask more questions about this. But I want to talk a little bit more, not just about the performance plate, which again, thank you for that. I think that does help our athletes and coaches look at that and understand the difference of a day that they're training or a day that they're off. But especially when you talked about really high intense times when they're at a competition, it's several days of high energy, high intensity. It's good to see the differences in the plate and what we should do to help fuel our bodies better. So can you talk to us a little bit about kind of planning your diet, how to do that, whether we talked a little bit like we did with the plates about, whether it's a training day or a non-training day, a competition day, a rest day, but talk a little bit about different types of sports and going into more of like the planning process with that of recipes, meal prep, all that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. So meal prepping and healthy recipes, you can find them almost everywhere over the internet, but a lot of times it can get really overwhelming. So a thing I like to teach people is cook once, eat it twice or 3 times. So thinking kind of a staple food that you like. I know for my household right now, we eat a lot of chicken. So we will grill or saute just some salt and pepper seasoned chicken breast. From there, we'll cut it up one day. We'll have some chicken strips over a salad or dipped into a sauce with some vegetables and some complex carbohydrates there too. And then, maybe a couple days later, we're making a chicken soup, or the next couple of days later, you already have that main protein option already set, and all you have to do is just say, all right, what's in the freezer or fridge? And just throw together some fruits and vegetables or some complex carbohydrates. So trying to think, all right, let's make a big batch of something, and then breaking it up over a few days can be really easy and beneficial, especially if you have a busy schedule. Couple healthy recipes that I put together for you guys. It's so subjective, all of us probably have different tastes or different favorite foods. So if you think, okay, maybe that sounds good, but I don't really like one of those things, thinking back to those food lists of what other vegetables or what other complex carbs would I like, and just switching that out can be pretty easy. So really easy one that I always like to have for breakfast is just a peanut butter banana smoothie. So I take either a milk or a milk substitute, a frozen banana, tablespoon of peanut butter, some, if you like protein, I use like a chocolate whey protein powder, and I blend it with ice. Super simple, easy breakfast option that you can make on the go if you're going to a training session or if you have a lot of things to do that day. It can also be a delicious snack or a delicious lunch as well. Another recipe is salsa chicken. So this is very simple. You can use the pre-sauteed or pre-grilled chicken like I was talking about before. We top it with a little bit of salsa, sprinkle some low-fat cheese on there, and then have that with some brown rice and steamed vegetables. Very easy. Just picture that plate. Remember the performance plate? We've got our lean protein, our complex carbs, and our fruits and vegetables. Another really good lunch option that seems to work for a lot of my clients are deli roll-ups. So if you have a whole wheat tortilla wrap, place that down. You're going to get your favorite deli meat, whether it's turkey or ham. You're going to put that on top of your tortilla, lettuce, tomato, or whatever kind of vegetables that you like. If it's leftover vegetables or if it's steamed vegetables, trying to throw that in there. And then some sort of sauce. You can use a low-fat ranch. I personally love honey mustard sauce, so I put that on there. And then you just roll it up, cut it, and it's perfect bite-sized for lunch. So those are just kind of some really quick, simple meal plan ideas. I can also send Haley and Kristen more ideas if that's what you guys would like. But meal planning can be very helpful, especially if you have a busy day, but also just thinking of overall how are you going to build your plate? Thinking back to those performance plates of, okay, I want to have color, protein, and complex carbs.
Great. And I know you and I talked a little bit about, you hit on it a little bit here, but about meal prepping and working with certain ingredients that right now, especially during the quarantine, you might not find in the store because of a shortage, or you might not be going to the store, you might be ordering online. Do you have any tips or tricks for basically food shopping during this quarantine, or any way how to continue being healthy when you do face those kind of barriers?
Absolutely. So a lot of people are facing this right now. I've gotten this question quite a bit. So just trying to be as flexible as you can is going to be my biggest advice. It's, if you're shopping and you put a lot of time in, planning some meals for that week or those next couple days that sounded really good to you, and one of those meals had beef, because there is actually beef shortage in certain areas. So one of those was you needed hamburger meat, like ground beef. It's okay if something is sold out when you get to the store, and you have to try a different brand or even a completely different product. So that could actually be exciting for some people. Some people it can cause a little bit of anxiety, which is okay. But it's okay if you try something and you don't necessarily like it. Now you know for next time. So, for example, coming back to that beef or that hamburger meat example, instead of having that beef, that same recipe or that same idea that you had can be used with another type of meat or vegetarian option. So if you're there and instead of beef, they have ground turkey or ground chicken, using that. Or if they have, just the ground beef but not rolled into the hamburger patties yet, you can then form those patties yourself. Or, you can also stop by the freezer section. A lot of brands have already formed frozen. And frozen can be just as healthy as fresh. That's a common misconception with a lot of people. But same thing goes for vegetables. You're there and you really wanted broccoli or cauliflower. Those are some hit vegetables right now. They don't have any. Check that freezer section, because I'm pretty likely they're going to have some frozen vegetables in there. So they're both helpful, and healthy. But I think also now that, people are becoming a little bit more comfortable and things are a little less scared and worried, people have stopped stocking up with a lot of ingredients. I know for myself, and I'm over in Pittsburgh, so I'm not sure where everybody else is, but a lot of the grocery stores have been pretty good with stocking the shelves, and most of the stuff are back on there. So that's good.
And Laura, can you hit on that again about you saying that it's still healthy to have frozen vegetables? I think you and I might have talked about frozen, was it fish maybe or something we talked about? Possibly being healthier? Could you talk about that a little?
So fresh versus frozen, even versus canned. So if we're talking about vegetables or fruits, all three are going to be very healthy for you. There's really no difference of carbohydrates or vitamins or minerals that are that major between those three. And often, as long as the canned portions, you're getting it in water or its own juice. So if you're getting, like canned peaches, try not to get the canned peaches in syrup. Get the canned peaches in juice or water. So tidbit there, stick that up in the brain. Just for longevity of health, it's just going to cut down on those added sugars a little bit. But back to the fresh versus frozen, for fish especially, a lot of times the protein options that are, especially for fish or seafood, so they're coming off that boat, right? And where I live, I'm in Pittsburgh, so it's a landlocked area. I don't have, an ocean nearby. There aren't shrimp coming out of the Ohio River, unfortunately. But those are frozen immediately. So oftentimes they might be fresher than the fresh shrimp that got onto a truck. Granted, it's refrigerated, all the way over to my grocery store, and then a couple days later, I'm picking it up. A couple days later, I'm cooking it. So a lot of times, frozen can be a very good option. If it's farm raised versus wild caught, honestly, it does not make a huge difference. If sustainability is something that you're worried about, we can talk more about that on another call, but we can get into a long conversation about that. So we'll leave that topic.
Very good. And I know you and I also talked about how you can still have tasty foods. You can still have the food you like as long as you're watching those portions and you're watching how frequently you are eating some of your tastier, maybe not so healthy options. I wanted to know if you could talk a little bit about that, Laura. And I know we also had another visual. I wasn't sure if you wanted to talk through the different portions.
Yeah, so if you could go ahead and bring up that portion guide. This is just a very simplified visual guideline that I use with a lot of clients that help them just kind of see, okay, this is a proper portion of certain foods. So like Kristen was saying, I was talking about, there are really no unhealthy foods. And this is something that Andrew from Case Specific Nutrition kind of said, and I really like how he says it, so I'm going to steal it. But there are no healthy foods. They're just lonely. So I'm a dietitian. One of my favorite foods are pizza. I love pizza. It's delicious. So am I just having pizza with that meal though? No. So if you think back to that performance plate, to have a healthy meal, I need those fruits and vegetables or the color. I need a lean protein source. I need a carbohydrate source. So that pizza is kind of a combination food. So thinking about the pizza, the bread of the pizza, that's going to be a carbohydrate source. If we can make it with whole wheat pizza dough, that's a plus, but I understand a lot of people and a lot of pizzerias don't do that. So that's a carbohydrate source. The cheese is going to be a little bit of a protein source plus fat source, and then any toppings. So if you're getting spinach, tomatoes, if you're putting vegetables on that pizza, that's great. But if you really just love pepperoni pizza, have the pepperoni pizza, but pair it with something else. So an example of this is, instead of having 3, 4, 5 slices of pepperoni pizza, let's have 2. We're still having the delicious pizza, but let's pair it with, say, a grilled chicken salad. So that way we're still getting our color from our fruits and vegetables. We're still getting a nice lean protein source, which is the chicken on that salad. And then we're also having our delicious pizza. So kind of pairing those together can really allow you to enjoy healthy food and food that you like and still have a, healthy, balanced meal. So taking a look at this portion, guidelines, taking your fist, that's kind of going to be, a starting point for how much of those rice, pasta, fruits, or veggies that you're going to want. So taking a look at your fist, trying to visualize that on your plate, that's going to be about that serving size. Palm, that's about a serving size for protein, like meat or fish, poultry. Just a handful is going to be your nuts and raisins. So those are a little bit more concentrated with macronutrients, like your fats for the raisins. Fats for the nuts and carbohydrates for the raisins. 2 handfuls of those bigger, like popcorn or pretzels. They're kind of like bigger, so they take up a little more space. So 2 handfuls. A thumb for concentrated, again, fat sources, so peanut butter and hard cheese. And then the tip of your thumb for mayonnaise or cooking oil, butter, or table sugar. So that kind of, I know this is really simplified, but that kind of gets you thinking of, okay, this is about a cup, this is about 3 ounces, 1 ounce, and vice versa.
Great, thank you. Very, very helpful. Okay, so next, we've learned a lot about talking with Laura about what are the different categories of food, the carbs, the proteins, the fats, just learning about food in general and the importance of healthy eating. We've talked about how to build your plate. We've talked about when you go food shopping, how to meal prep properly and what substitutions you can use from the stores when they are out of items. And then talking a little bit more about the portion and the different sizes and easy tricks with your hands and how to size that out. So we're going to roll next into a demonstration. This is Laura's video debut for us. So we're going to talk a little bit about a healthy snack. So we'll play the video for all of you. So make sure your volume is turned up so you can hear it.
Hi Special Olympics, it's Laura Kleiber, the registered dietitian, here to show you a yogurt parfait cooking demo. So yogurt parfaits are super easy to make. There's only 3 to 4 ingredients, and you can kind of customize it or substitute based on your flavor preferences and whatever your favorite foods are. So to get started, first ingredient is Greek yogurt. There's tons of different types out there. I just stress that you want to choose the one that's no fat or low fat. So let's get started. We're gonna start with the strawberry first. So you just open up your container, get your bowl handy, go ahead and scoop that out into your bowl, set that aside, and then let's start with our granola. We're gonna use just a regular spoon for this. Spoon out a little bit of granola. And then with our strawberry, we're gonna use banana, because what's better than strawberry banana together, right? So I cut up a small banana, just get some fruit in there, and there you have it. Next up, we have our vanilla bean yogurt. Scoop your yogurt into your bowl. We're gonna add some granola, a little bit of granola in there, and then with the vanilla, we're gonna do berries. Today I have blueberries and strawberries, so we're gonna use a little bit of both. I'm probably gonna do 2 spoons of blueberries and 2 spoons of strawberries. So now, berry yogurt parfait. Last but certainly not least, we have the coconut cream. So you start with your coconut yogurt. And if you're dairy-free, you could always use a dairy-free yogurt. They have a ton of different varieties at the grocery store. And we're gonna put the granola in. Use our spoon, pour some granola over there on the side. And then we have pineapple to keep in theme with, a little bit tropical. Just some cut up pineapple that we're gonna put right there on the side. And there you have it. We have 3 different yogurt parfaits: tropical, berry, and strawberry banana. Just like you guys saw, they're super easy to make. There's so many different flavor combinations based on your favorite fruits or what kind of granola you have or the flavors of yogurt that
All right, great. That was super helpful, and I love the video. I love all the different types of yogurt parfaits and all the ingredients. So thank you so much for sharing that, especially the still shots with all the ingredients. I'm sure everyone's going to be watching this video later and freezing on that to write all the ingredients down. That's awesome. So we do have some questions rolling in here, Laura, so I do want to keep moving here, but I wanted to also let you kind of wrap up your presentation. One of the things you and I had talked about was just in general, some healthy lifestyle tips. Is there anything you'd like to provide to our athletes, our coaches, or our team leaders today about just in general, wrapping up the topic here today, but also how to just do other things to just maintain an overall healthy lifestyle?
Absolutely. So obviously good nutrition is important in eating well for a healthy lifestyle, but there are also some other tips that can be really healthy and make sure you're living a nice life. So the first thing I would say is get a good night's sleep. Sleeping is super important. We should all be shooting for 8 to 9 hours. I know for some of us schedules, that's a little hard, but shooting for as many as you can get in a nice, well-rested state is better than nothing. So making sure you're getting up around the same time and going to bed the same time can really help, as well as making sure that your room or wherever you're sleeping is dark. If you can't have blinds or anything, even just putting a t-shirt over your eyes can really be beneficial. Trying to exercise daily, that doesn't necessarily mean you have to be in a set training schedule or have practice. This can simply be moving your body in a way that you enjoy and that feels good for you. So whether that's taking a walk, riding a bike, planting in a garden, just being outdoors in general, anything that gets you up and moving in some way counts. Also, managing your stress can be really helpful for your healthy life. Exercise does help this, but also just making sure that you're using support systems and people that are around you and the resources that you have. And also understanding that, you can only control so much about life. Focusing on what you can control as opposed to things that you cannot control can really help a lot of people with stress. You can't control somebody else's actions. You can only control yourself. So focusing on yourself and what you can do the best you can do is super helpful for people. And then also just having a positive outlook on life. Surround yourselves with people that are good for you, that, support you, that are positive. And don't let anybody else's negativity or bad moods weigh you down. Kind of just, again, focusing on yourself and trying to stay positive. I know it's a crazy time we're living through right now, so it's harder to do than say, but trying to focus on those things and be a little bit more mindful during this time can really help us.
Wonderful advice. That's really great. Thank you, Laura. We really enjoyed learning about the importance of nutrition, all about healthy eating, and especially the snack demonstration. I know myself, as well as many others, are probably super excited to go make their own yogurt parfait. But we're now going to allow some time for questions. We have seen some questions come in, Laura, so get ready. We have lots of questions for you. Remember, if you have questions for Laura, submit that through the Q&A box, the question and answer box, and we will read them out loud to Laura on the webinar so that you get your answers live. So Laura, if you're ready, we're going to go right to those questions.
Okay.
Awesome. Okay. So one question that came in much earlier in the webinar, and I know you touched base on this as well, is this person says they know that water is the best to drink, but when is it okay, or when is it best to drink Gatorade?
It's a great question. So yes, you are correct. Water is the best drink. But when is it okay or best to drink Gatorade? So Gatorade is, pretty concentrated with sugar, and it's normally just table sugar, but it also has some electrolytes that keep you hydrated. So the best time to have Gatorade is going to be when you are definitely in a competition or a very intense training or practice setting. So this means, it's an hour to 2 hours. It's very intense, or it's very, very hot out and you're sweating a lot. So does this mean, a 30-minute to an hour practice where maybe you're sweating a little bit, but you're really not really pushing yourself? Gatorade's not going to necessarily be needed. If you really like the taste of Gatorade and you are exercising that 32 minutes to an hour of like moderate intensity, I would say if you really like it, pour some in a water bottle. Don't just drink out of the Gatorade bottle. And fill up the rest with water so that you are diluting it a little bit. You're still getting those electrolytes, but you are decreasing the amount of sugar in there just because that sugar can be a lot.
Great. Another question is, if you're a picky eater and you don't really like fruits and vegetables, maybe you don't like the texture, or you just don't like them at all. This person, Brittany, says, is there a way we can trick people into trying different healthy foods that they may not like, or maybe you haven't given a fair shot? Is there any way you can find a way to trick people into eating their fruits and veggies, or a different supplement they can have?
Kind of. So if you're dealing with somebody who really hasn't tried a fruits and vegetable or really given them the time of day, simply just offering it to them at first, they have to choose if they want it. You can't necessarily force feed fruits and vegetables to people. If so, my job would be really easy. But kind of saying, do you want to try this? And if their answer is no, straight off the bat, okay, but trying to make it a little bit more interesting. If you're a parent or a coach, cutting the fruit or vegetable in a certain shape, more of an interesting shape, can sometimes encourage people to try it. You have to try things. And if you're on here and you're a picky eater, just try it. You may like it, you may not. And if you don't, try it again. but that's okay. If you really, I hate mushrooms. I'm sorry, I do. They're a great vegetable. Some people really like them. They are not for me. But you know what? I really like broccoli, so I eat a lot of broccoli because I like it. So making sure that you are open-minded and trying fruits and vegetables can really be helpful. Offering it to somebody several times can also help. And then worst case scenario, trying it in a different form. So somebody really hates strawberry or apples. Somebody hates apples. All right, well, let's cut the apple into slices, try it that way. That's not working. Let's try applesauce. That's not working either. Let's try apple juice. So seeing how there's different steps and different layers of, the same fruit with the same taste, it's just in a variety of different textures, flavors, and they're just a little bit more interesting sometimes. When in doubt, you can also just throw it into a smoothie.
Or a yogurt parfait.
Or a yogurt parfait. Thank you.
Another question here is about this athlete says they're a vegetarian and they don't eat meat. What do you suggest?
Great. So you can absolutely still be a healthy athlete or a healthy individual and be a vegetarian. You don't necessarily have to be a vegetarian to be healthy either. So if you choose to be vegetarian, that's great for you. You just have to focus a little bit more on how to get your protein. So if we think back when I was talking about protein, you need that for structure. You need that to make all the different tissues in your body. So it is a really important component of your diet, but making sure that you're getting protein sources in every single meal can be great for a vegetarian. Now, if you're a lacto-ovo vegetarian, that means you don't eat meat, but you do eat some dairy products and egg products. So if you are a lacto-ovo vegetarian, making sure you're incorporating dairy, so milk, yogurt, or cheese in your diet can be good, as well as eggs, because those are really good protein sources. Again, though, other plant-based protein sources are beans, legumes, nuts, seeds, whole grains, so like whole wheat bread or whole wheat pasta, tofu and soy products. There's also a chickpea pasta. You might have seen it at a grocery store. It's called Banza, B-A-N-Z-A. That's a pasta made out of chickpea flour, so that has a lot of protein in it as well. So those are just a couple different ideas of things that you want to incorporate into your diet to make sure that you're getting enough protein.
Great. There's a couple questions that are actually very similar, and they're asking about what types of food can you get if you're on a financial budget? What is the best types of food to get to be healthy, but also not break that budget?
Yeah. So this comes up a lot. Food can be kind of expensive. When you're in the grocery store, trying to flip through that flyer that the grocery stores send out ahead of time when you're thinking about your list or you're making your meals for that week, that can really help. Seeing what's on sale, that's great. But, canned and frozen fruits and vegetables are going to be less expensive than the fresh. And like I said before, they're just as healthy. As long as you're getting the canned in the water or the juice, remember that, and not the syrup. So those can just be just as healthy. And then also incorporating plant-based proteins. So like I just said, beans and whole grains, those can be pretty inexpensive, especially getting, more bang for your buck in that kind of terms is having beans, greens, and rice. That's a pretty simple meal, and you're also going to get the protein and carbohydrates from the beans. If you're going to use brown rice, hopefully, because that's a complex carbohydrate, rice, especially in the bags, not your Uncle Brown's ready rice. The ones in the bags that you have to boil on the stovetop are going to be less expensive too. Typically, the most expensive part of grocery shopping is going to be your protein, your meat options. So trying to adapt more of a vegetarian lifestyle can be, in fact, a little bit cheaper.
Another question that came through here is, I don't think we've talked about this, is about what are your thoughts about starting the day with a bigger breakfast versus ending the day with a bigger dinner?
So in terms of being an athlete or weight loss or just health in general, that can really vary person to person. So in general, the number of calories you eat in a 24-hour span is more important than like when you eat them, essentially. So trying to space out your meals. Ideally, you want to have 3 equal meals: breakfast, lunch, and dinner, right? And you kind of want them to be about the same size so that you're spacing your energy intake out and your body is getting enough energy from breakfast, lunch, and dinner, so that we're not having maybe just a granola bar for breakfast, a piece of fruit or something for lunch, and then a great big dinner. We want to make sure that we are spacing out our food because, if we have that great big dinner, think about what you ate the rest of the day. Maybe a granola bar, piece of fruit or something. By the time you get to dinner, you are starving because your body's like, hello, I need food. And you tend to overeat then. So spacing that out and just listening to your hunger and fullness cues can be really beneficial. And just to prevent overeating, but also just kind of spacing out your food intake. If that makes sense.
It does. It does. Somebody else had asked about sort of similar with that when you're talking about the food, the spacing out of your food. When you're having difficulty dieting and losing weight, is there a way you can sort of trick your body into losing the weight, such as intermittent fasting? Is that safe or not recommended?
Okay. Intermittent fasting is such a hot topic right now. So I would call it a fad diet, is, what we call them, like that and keto are the biggest fad diets right now. So in terms of tricking your body into losing weight, you don't have to trick it into it. It's more, losing weight is more about being consistent. And, calories in versus calories out is the most basic terms of weight loss. You have to expend more calories than you're taking in. So there's, like a scale like this. If you are even, you're maintaining weight. If you are having more calories in than you're expending, you're going to gain weight. And if you have more calories out than in, you're going to lose weight. So us as, Americans take that as, okay, well, I have to do, way less calories in. Well, then your body's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Our bodies don't like to lose weight. So our bodies back up and say, hold on, this isn't what I want to do. So that's kind of just an overarching recommendation, is just kind of watching your calories in, calories out. But if you are somebody that wants to lose weight or feels like that is necessary for you, I'd urge you to reach out to a registered dietitian. We are the experts. I would try to hold off on going on the internet and looking at fad diets like the keto diet or intermittent fasting for a fast weight loss plan, because those aren't necessarily sustainable. So reaching out to a dietitian would be my best advice. The portion of, is intermittent fasting safe? It can be, but I would have to talk more about, the timing of that. It just controls the time frame of which you eat in, is essentially all intermittent fasting is. You're fasting for 10 hours. You're eating for 12. 14. Wow, 24 hours in a day. So, the rest of that time you're fasting. So it depends how long you're eating, but also what you're eating. So again, if that's something you're interested in, I would urge you to reach out to a dietitian. I do see clients virtually. If that's something that you want to talk about or you're interested in, I'm more than happy to talk with you. So I'll give my contact information to Kristen, and we'll make sure that if that's something that you're interested in, we can talk more. But for right now, that's the overarching idea.
Great. Another question is, are there any tips to help prevent overeating? I know we talked about the portions and things like that, but do you have any tips to prevent overeating?
So definitely watching your portions. But if your body's like, hey, I'm really hungry, that is a sign that you might not be eating enough or not enough of the right things. So it can really, making sure that you're incorporating those colors. Fruits and vegetables can be huge. Fruits and vegetables have fiber, and fiber helps us make us feel full. It also is really good for our digestive tract. It has many other benefits, but we'll just call it with those. Making sure you have fiber in your diet, making sure you have complex carbohydrates. So if you're having, a lot of white bread, a lot of white pasta, replacing that with complex carbohydrates, that's going to make you feel full for longer and also give you more sustainable energy throughout the day so that you're not hungry an hour and a half after a meal. Instead, you are, eating your meal. It's high quality food. It's complex carbohydrates. It's color, and it's lean protein. You're going to feel fuller for longer. And then that next meal, you're not going to be ravenous and not going to be like, okay, I need to eat everything underneath the sun because I did just feed my body in a great way. Does that make sense?
It does. Okay, so we're going to try and wrap up. We have one more question we're going to ask you, and then we have to wrap up. I know people are still sending questions in, so we're trying to keep it contained here. But one of the final questions here we're going to ask is, if you're dieting for a week or two, and then you slip up and you eat the wrong things, you have a cheat day, what do you do next? What is your suggestion?
So again, dieting, I don't love the word. I just like to think of, it's a lifestyle change. So in cheating, it's not like you have these rigid rules around food. Again, there are no healthy foods. They're just lonely foods. So making sure that you kind of stepping back and saying, overall, I want to eat healthy, right? 80% of the time, I want to eat for my health, my longevity, my sport, my athletic performance, 80% of the time. 20% of the time, you have to live life. Part of, experiencing life and having food, and that's part of every celebration. It's kind of a common thread through our society. Think of any party or get together. It's always kind of surrounding food, right? So making sure that, yes, you can have a dessert or a pastry or a pizza, making sure that doesn't ruin your diet, because what do you do next? I'm back to my healthy eating again. You have to have a little bit of resilience. That doesn't necessarily mean, okay, it's all over, throw the diet to the winds, we're having anything I want now. Instead, okay, I'm allowed to have, this ice cream or this pastry or the dessert or whatever you're deeming as unhealthy or cheat day. I can have this and I can still be healthy, because that next meal, I'm going to say, I'm going to prioritize my color, my fruits and vegetables, my complex carbohydrates, and my lean proteins.
Very good lesson. And you kind of reminded me, one of the athletes' questions that we got as well was, what are your thoughts on the real food movement? I wasn't sure if that was a fad diet or not, but when I looked it up here, it was talking about a lifestyle change and having wholesome food choices and kind of not doing that sort of what you're talking about, sort of the crash course of dieting and cheating and worrying about all that. So I wasn't sure if, as a dietitian, if you use words like the real food movement, if that's something that is considered a fad right now, or is that more of kind of what you're explaining with the lifestyle change?
I think that's kind of just people, I'm not familiar with the actual term, the real food movement. From your description just now, I'm going to guess that, it's people realizing these fad diets aren't working because they're not for lifelong. Like a diet like the Whole30 or a keto cleanse, like all these things, like you can't live like that forever. That doesn't make sense. So I'm guessing the real food movement is kind of getting back to, let's prioritize, wholesome, high quality foods, fruits and vegetables that are grown out of the ground, like lean proteins, complex carbohydrates, and eating real food as opposed to that highly processed food that isn't necessarily as healthy for us. That's what I'm guessing it's about. I would say I'm team positive on it, if it's that, and that's how I described it. So getting back to, yes, focusing on each meal, how we're looking at our plates, making sure that we have all of those components on there, and then eating for our health, not just, necessarily all cheat days, right?
That's very true. That's very true. I think what we've all learned today is how to have a healthier lifestyle. And when you're working with your body and nutrition, you want to be able to enjoy it. And the way it's going to last longer is by not making those cuts and cutting corners and making those quick decisions of changing and fasting and cheating and diets and all that kind of stuff. It is that lifestyle change of just how to be healthier, how to be more wholesome, and how to create a lifestyle that's going to be beneficial and attainable, as well.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Laura. I really appreciate you joining us today. And we'll be sure that sorry about that. We'll be sure that we include Laura's information when we send out our follow-up email. We'll make sure we send out her information, the slides that she shared with us today, all the helpful graphics, as well as any contact information from her. But this concludes our Team Tuesdays webinar. If you have more questions, please send them to the email that you see listed on your screen. As a reminder, these webinars are recorded and later posted to our SOPA YouTube channel, where you can view later and share with others in your program. Thank you to everyone for joining this webinar. We hope you enjoyed our guest speaker today. And again, we want to thank Laura for presenting today and all her helpful knowledge on this topic. We will join you all on our next webinar in 2 weeks from today. That will be July 7th, Tuesday, July 7th. Until then, stay healthy and stay safe.